This podcast is brought to you by the creators of Emmy Award-winning Rising Phoenix.
Supported by global partners Adidas and Procter & Gamble, the proud makers of Oral-B, Pampers, and Gillette. Hi, my name is Matt Stutzman. I'm a four-time Paralympian and silver medalist.
And I'm four-time Olympic gold medalist Michael Johnson.
Welcome to our podcast, Rising Phoenix. What does it take?
Where we'll introduce you to some of the world's greatest Paralympians.
Kind of like me.
Kind of like you, Matt. You'll hear about their life stories, what it takes to get this far, and their hopes for Paris 2024 and beyond. So, I competed in 3 Olympic Games, but I always knew, when it was going to be time for me to hang up the spikes. And I'm just curious, Matt, when you hang up your bow, what are you going to do next?
Well, for me, I've already started the next phase of where I see Matt Stutzman. I have multiple things. One of them is motivational speaking. The other one is that I like to do whatever I can to help promote the Paralympic movement and keep that growing. And then lastly, because I got to be fast like you, I've taken up car racing, drag racing. That is my plan for the future.
That's quite a list, and I'm not surprised.
It keeps me pretty busy. Have you always thought that you would stay in sports, like after you retired?
Yeah, I always wanted to. I feel very lucky that I am able to stay in sports. I always wanted to. I didn't know if I would be able to stay in sports. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and so I found myself, as an entrepreneur, starting a company that works with athletes and trains athletes, and then also being a television commentator. So it's been great to stay in sports. I've always been interested in what athletes want to do after their careers. So I'm particularly excited today for our next guest for the podcast today. Ludivine Munos not only has one of the biggest medal hauls ever for a French athlete, she is also Paris 2024 Paralympic Integration Manager. So welcome to Rising Phoenix. What does it take? Ludivine Munos, welcome.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much to welcome me today. I'm very pleased to be here with you.
I have noticed, because we've been here for a couple days now, that all over Paris, there's flags promoting the games. In fact, we're actually in a Paralympic venue right now. How does that make you feel when you see all that stuff?
Oh, it's just amazing to be sure that now it's the last period before the Paralympic Game. I'm very pleased it's 7 and 8 days before, and now I'm very stressed and very pleased, and it's very nice to see everywhere some flag and some different, and now I just want to see some teams around the street.
I mean, the games are fast approaching, and I know that you're very busy, so we appreciate you taking the time with us. So just talk a little bit about your role as Paralympic Integration Manager.
My role in first time is how I can promote and develop all the specificities from the Paralympic game. I have some example when we discuss around the mascot. We have many discussions if the mascot could have to be the same or not the same, and if we could show a different disability like a prosthesis. So my role is to unroll and to push with every person internally of Paris 2024 and externally the difficulties or the specificities of the Paralympic game. And in more than that, I am the head of accessibility team, which engages the team to develop the obligation to have venues and transport to be sure that it could be accessible for athletes and even for spectators.
I know that we're going to talk more about that later in the podcast, but what I would like to know now is more about the earlier years. What was that like?
When I was 11, I started the school at the college, and quickly the different teacher explained that I can't make sport at school because my difficulties, because I was born without leg and arm in right. And so he says that you can't run every time, so you have to stop the sport. But in my head and in my parents' head, it was just impossible. They proposed to discover parasport. It was just after the Paralympic game in Barcelona. My head said, oh my God, this life is just amazing. I can practice the sport and travel around the world and perhaps win medal. So it's just a start for me to introduce my life in the Paralympic movement.
you said that, like, in your mind, in your parents' mind, it was impossible to not run and to not play sports. How instrumental were your parents in supporting you in your pursuit of sports and desire to continue to play sports when others were saying, no, you can't?
Yeah, I have a very important chance. All the time, my parents push me to start something, to test on different options, to start sport or even sports school. And that's why I choose the swimming, because I like the water. It's, to be honest with you, I have a very good quality in the water. It's easier. And without prosthesis, it's totally different to practice sport. And with prosthesis, for me, it was just little difficult. And because I was born like that, I can't run easier, but I swim very fast. So I have very an important chance. It's to have the family who push me to test something and to develop what I want.
So it's safe to say you made a pretty big splash at your first Paralympic Games. You were only 15, right?
I was 15. It was very young. My first competition just before the Paralympic Game, it was in Stockmanville, so the European Championship. And I remember it's because the team have no usual young person, and my first objective is no lost the team, because I'm sure that they forgot to check if Ludivine is okay or Ludivine it's around here in the bus. So all the time I was on one objective in more than swimming, as you can imagine, is how I'm sure to stay with the team because I was very young, and I was the youngest woman in the team in the Atlanta Paralympic Games, and it was just amazing. You discover everything with a village, with different sport, different team, and stay with the same team during 1 month with different sport. It was just amazing. And I have this chance to discover some athletes who say, okay, Ludivine, you are young, and stay with us in your room and don't use energy everywhere. Because you can walk everything everywhere, but it's very difficult to win medal if you are not okay or if you don't keep your energy day after day.
The first time I made Team USA and they took me on my first ever international trip, it was to Stoke Mandeville.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, we have a very nice story together.
Yeah, the football field or the soccer field that they have out there is where we shot. And I was just so mesmerized by because the Paralympics basically started there, right? And I was so mesmerized by all of it. However, I got fourth, so it wasn't my best performance. But when you talk about Stoke Mandeville, it really reminds me of what I went through at Stoke Mandeville, and it's crazy to think that I'm from the United States, but we both share that same exact experience.
Very nice.
So you were talking about, being the youngest swimmer, but you also were the youngest person to ever be awarded the Legion of Honor award as well. From what I understand, you came back with a lot of medals, and President Jacques Chirac awarded you with the Legion of Honor. Just talk about how that experience was for you, and was that something you ever even imagined?
I have to speak concerning my difficulties during this first Paralympic game. The first one is why I was selected to practice on the 50 meters butterfly. And at this moment, before I have the chance to test the swimming pool with the 200 medley, but during the butterfly, I used my theory in the morning. It was very nice. It was the first time. And for the afternoon, I started my final. I make a very big time with 39 seconds. I push on Omega plaque. I look the table and was the first. It was a world record, but I was disqualified in 1 second after because my last movement in the hand was not correct. I moved my arm. It was not aligned, and it was not the rule. So it was normal decision. But how you can imagine, I go directly to Atlanta just for this final because all the teams say you can have one chance of medal in the butterfly, and I failed. I have the chance to have 24 hours before coming in the swimming pool too, and all my family say, you are here, you have to go away and take the time to test if you can find other medal. And in the end, I was the winner in the 50 meters freestyle. So the story is very nice. But it was very, very hard for me and for this young woman to pass all this final with this my story. But in the end, it was just amazing because I won 5 medals, 1 gold, 3 silver, and 1 bronze. But during the game, it just was little difficult. But how I can remember is that in 24 hours, I can come back and be happy and win a medal.
Ludivine Loiseau en tête devant Nathalie Jones. Et Ludivine Loiseau qui remporte la médaille d'argent et la meilleure de...
You won a lot of medals. I mean, there's 12 Paralympic medals and European and World Championship titles too, making you one of the most decorated French athletes of all time. How did you know, when it was time to step away and move on?
It was a very big question because the Paralympic movement progressed day after day. Paralympic game after Paralympic game, the result is very bigger than bigger, and I was little tired because around in more than my sport, I have to go at school because in 1996 you have no partners and no facilities to change your school. So I have to do in parallel the 2 projects. So I was just a little tired and I prefer to stop with a very big medal and after that perhaps to be in the 5 or 6th place. So I choose to stop here after my 3 Paralympic Games, my last medal, and I have to finish my school and I want to build a new life.
It's interesting that you say, you finish on top because that's what it was for me as well. I knew at that point, that I didn't want to go, like you said, like to 4th or 5th. I mean, once you started to win medals, you win gold, you finish on the podium, you want to end your career there. And it does get harder. You know it's going to get harder. I knew it was going to get harder. And, you start to ask yourself, do I still have am I going to be able to keep this same level of commitment? And you have to be really honest with yourself at that point. If you're not, it's best to move away because, once you've been winning, it's no fun to be losing.
After you decided that you knew it was your time to move on, what area of work did you move into and why?
In first time, I want to develop my own life. To develop my different skills in a company, and I choose a big company, one in France, it's EDF. But in parallel, as you can imagine, Matt, I can't stop to speak concerning the Paralympic movement. So I take the time to share it with school, with different company. And some years after that, France Television called me and they say, what you will do in this summer? Nothing. Are you sure that you can come to Rio with us and to speak around the swimming? Yes.
I think that you going into broadcasting and continuing to grow the sport, I think is amazing for one, because you have this vision of where you want to go and where you want the Paralympic movement to go.
So that's how I can start my new project with the television, with the different movement to speak and to share how I can be a very chance woman and very happy in my life with the Paralympic movement. That's very important for me.
I'm curious about, you've had an amazing athletic career and just wonder, what you've been able to bring from that success in your athletic career to this role that you're in now, Paralympic Integration Manager.
It was very easy to share in first time my passion everywhere in the committee and outside to say, come in the Paralympic game. But in more than that, I can develop that what is very important for athletes is to be highlighted and to develop the very important specificity of the Paralympic game, like you can imagine for event. For example, in the swimming pool, if you don't remember that some person have a wheelchair of prosthesis, and if you compete for a 400 meters, you have to check and to move the prosthesis and the different wheelchair. And what is very important is to take care of that. So you have to push a specificity for everywhere and everyone. And in more than that, because my life changed with the Paralympic game. I build my life with the Paralympic movement is how I can push everything to be sure that the legacy will be very important with a different view of the spectators. Because for me, the Paralympic game is the most important moment to transform the society in France and in more than that in Europe, everything in the world. That's why I developed some different content to be sure that we can speak about Paralympic game everywhere.
It almost feels like your legacy is part of the legacy is that you want to help grow the Paralympics. Like that's part of your legacy. You want to be kind of at the forefront of that, helping change the way we see the Paralympics.
For me, the behavior is very important. I have the chance to travel to London a few weeks before, and I can measure what the behavior can be very amazing. And when I push the communication with everywhere and with the media, all the time I highlight that you have a Paralympic athlete. It could be someone with amazing. You have to speak about him because you have to develop the knowledge about the Paralympic Games to be sure that when the spectators see the Paralympic athlete, they say, I can welcome everyone and everywhere, and I have to take it in all of my project. For example, if you develop a new moment, a spectacle or a concert, you have to take care of person with disability to welcome it. And sometimes I can have the same view and welcoming on the podium and to take a discussion, a part of the discussion. And in the end of that, we will have more employees who can welcome person with disability. And for me, the behavior is very important. In more than just accessibility content, you have to change the behavior of the society.
What kind of changes have to be made from, let's say, the Olympic Village to turn it into for the Paralympics to get ready for that?
I decided to come directly to Paris 2024 and to send my resume to be sure that I can transform the society. And in my head, it's how I can develop the same condition for Olympic and Paralympic athletes. That's the first idea. If I were in the committee, I can push everything to be sure that the para-athlete could be welcome for the Olympic athletes. That's why I decided to integrate the Paralympic Committee. And when I integrate the team, it was very amazing to understand that everything is built and is think for Olympic and Paralympic athletes for each subject. For example, in Tokyo, because I was in Tokyo with the Paralympic Committee, and in the press room, they have to change the height of the table because this person with a wheelchair prefer a table higher than for person without disability. And in my head, I have no time to do that. Mm-hmm. The good solution is to take care of Paralympic game in first time. If you take care of accessibility and different specifically on the ramp with the lift, in first time you have to change nothing. So for me, it's very, very important to have some Paralympian in the committee.
Paris is beautiful. It's stunning. The buildings here are, historic. But as we know, historic buildings don't translate too well into being accessible to people with disabilities. What's kind of your plan to help ensure that they do become a little bit more accessible?
What is important is just to highlight that Paris have some challenge, but if you look very precisely, you have some specific solution that can be help person day after day. But for the Paralympic and the Olympic Games, we have to add some different services to be sure that the spectators could travel day after day. For example, we had shuttle to take them directly to each venues. In the first time, we push the very important accessibility on bus, on tramway. But at this moment, the dynamic is here, and I'm very proud of that because I was on the table. And all the time, I test everything. I promise you, I test everything. I test the bus, I test the sound in the bus, I test the tramway, I test the station. All the time, I'm everywhere with my wheelchair and with my colleague with a visual impairment, and we test it. We develop a group. 13 persons, we test with me the competition, the subway, the tramway, how we can push it. And in more than that, all the Olympic and Paralympic village is totally accessible. And we have some services like audio description, which could take place during the Paralympic and the Olympic Games. In total, it will be 460 hours to have some audio description. We have 9 sport Paralympic and 6 sport Olympic. It will be a very nice services.
So one of the things that everybody, I'm sure you get this question a lot, but for the Paralympics and the Olympics, both, how are the ticket sales?
Oh, very good question. We have a very nice dynamic when we launch the ticket sale for the Paralympic Games. We progress on it to be sure we develop 2 Paralympic days to be sure that the public can welcome and can discover the Paralympic content. Now we have to progress in a new dynamic with a new campaign, like you can see everywhere in Paris. The name is Il ne nous manque rien, sauf vous. They miss nothing without you, because we want to engage the public, the French public, to take ticket now. In London, we can measure that they sell many tickets during the Olympic Games.
I want to say congratulations to all the Olympians who participated in the Olympics. You guys were phenomenal. It was amazing. But now, it's our turn.
The real games are about to start. Get your tickets for the Paralympics.
You mentioned London there. I mean, London had a fantastic Paralympic Games, created an amazing legacy for the Paralympic movement. I'm just curious what your thoughts are, your vision or hopes for the legacy of the Paralympic Games here in Paris. This will be the first time Paris has ever hosted a Paralympic Games.
The first pillar for me, it's a sport. And for develop the sport, the States, Paris 2024, and the Paralympic Committee, French Committee, develop a training. The name is Club Inclusif. It's how we can make a training for each club. We want to develop to understand the disability and welcome in the future new sport, new parasport. That's the first pillar. And in more than that, we push at school a very famous week. The name is Paralympic and Olympic Week since 7 years. And during this time, all the school take care of Paralympic sport to develop and to show it in the school. So it's a very important legacy. For me, the very important legacy is how we could guarantee that the dynamic that we can have now concerning the accessibility can stay months after months, day after day, years after years. And if you have a full stadium everywhere, you be sure that the light, the head and the view from the spectator can change and transform the society and consider the Paralympic athletes and even in more than that, the person with disability like talents, like an exceptional person, and to be sure that after that, you have a legacy with employees.
Tokyo didn't work out so well. So Paris has that feeling or vibe of like open for business again, right? We're getting crowds back, and for me, it's making me super excited about it. How do you look at that?
For the first time, we will have the ceremony, which could be in the streets. It's the first time that the Paralympic Games have the chance to can progress in the Champs-Élysées street, and after that around the La Concorde. So it could be amazing to have very new picture from Paralympic athletes in the Eiffel Tower or around that in the Grand Palais with a wheelchair fencing. So it could be very amazing for that.
You guys are going to be handing over to Los Angeles, which is where I'm from. I sit on the board of LA 28. You guys are going to be handing over to us. Just curious what your advice would be for the person at Los Angeles 28 that's doing the same role you're doing of integrating Paralympics into the Olympics.
It's to build the accessibility content in first time. That is very important. And every time it's to how they can build and they can progress with the different campaign of the Paralympic Games. It's very difficult and you have to check what is the view of disability inclusion in your country to progress on the how we could push the different content for the public. For example, you have the Superhuman campaign for London, but 12 years after, it's not exactly in France the same view. In France, we want to develop the inclusion. Every person can come in the same club with disability or not. That is our opinion, our objective. That's why we develop a campaign around the match retour, the second round, the final round. And after that, it's Il ne manque rien sauf vous. It was just adapt on how we can progress and develop inclusion in our society. So my counsel, it's for Los Angeles, it's to develop a new campaign with a new position, and day after day push the content of the Paralympic game everywhere, in more than in school.
So you have competed in the Paralympics all over the world. Is there a little bit of you that is like, I kind of want to compete while it's on home soil? Like, have you already went to the pool and like maybe thought of jumping in and getting back into it, or and it is home soil?
No, my Ontario, it's a very good moment for me. But I'm very pleased. When I come in Peking, I'm not sure that I can have some emotion in the spectators' stadium. So I was just a little afraid. But in reality, it's just amazing. When I am in the stadium, I have to remember what was my medal, what was my competition. So I like the Paralympic movement.
So do you have any sightseeing or recommendations for people traveling to see the games to maybe go check out?
Yes, I have to push the swimming competition, as you can imagine, because it's just very exciting to be on La Défense Arena with a swimming pool. For me, you have to choose one collective sport like rugby or basket, wheelchair basket. It's very amazing. But in more than that, don't hesitate to go directly to Les Invalides to see Matt with his competition, because I'm very happy to follow you around my computer. I don't know where I will be during the Paralympic Games, but I'm sure that the result can be amazing. The venues amazing too. I can imagine that since 4 years. So don't hesitate to come. We are very welcome to help the person with disability. We develop a very accessible venue. We develop shuttle to help spectators to progress in Paris. And we develop many information in the website to be sure that you can find your shuttle, or you can find your bus, and you can find your services in the venue, like audio description directly on your phone, on your Games Time web app, or you can use a wheelchair in the entrance. So don't hesitate to share it with everyone and come to the Paralympic game, because the tickets, it's a very small price, and don't hesitate to come.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We know you're very busy with the games coming. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us.
Thank you, but I'm sorry. I have just one moment for you. I want to welcome a new person for you, which is Olympic Frige and the Paralympic Frige. The Paralympic Frige is higher than the Olympic Frige. The objective is to push that person with disability can be higher, can be better, can have more talent than person with no disability. So I want to give to you this different fridge, and I hope that you keep it on your baggage for the Paralympic game. So one more for you.
So that one's mine because...
Yes, it's
I don't
you.
know.
No, she said my fridge, this one is higher.
It's higher.
That's me.
And the Olympic
Between you and
fridge.
me, Matt, you know that. You already know that.
So I'm really good with second places, so I will gladly I'll gladly accept
You're
this
the world
one.
record holder. You get in second places.
Frige?
No, exactly. Frige.
Frige.
Yeah, it's better.
Frige.
Frige.
Stop your movement with your mouth. Just
Choco.
frige.
Frige.
Yeah, better.
I'm getting there.
This mascot represents the hat, the story of the French, which was the name is Le Bonnet Phrygien. It's a name, it's very historic, a movement with the revolution. It was a symbol for each revolution person we want to change the society. That's why we use the fridge like a symbol for the French Olympic and Paralympic competition. Although all of them is red, you have Agitos on the one and in the ring for the other one. That is very important to have just two differences, the higher and the prosthesist.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you. This is really cool. It was great to hear from Ludivine about what it takes to put on the Paralympic Games.
So it's been an awesome time here at the Adidas Arena. This is actually home of the Paralympic badminton and powerlifting. I know personally myself, I can't wait to come back and compete, as well as come here and actually watch those guys compete in this arena as well.
Yeah, it should be exciting. Can't wait. Now we know who to watch. Hopefully you know who to watch as well.
It's going to be incredible. That's all we got today on this episode of Rising Phoenix, What Does It Take? A podcast brought to you by the creators of the Emmy Award-winning show Rising Phoenix. Supported by global partners, Adidas and Procter & Gamble, the proud makers of Oral-B, Pampers, and Gillette.
Be sure to like and subscribe. We've got lots of great content coming up and some fantastic guests.
And to find out more about Rising Phoenix, make sure you check out our show notes.
This is a Persophonica production in partnership with Harder Than You Think.
I'm a rising phoenix.